everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and this is the Astral Library. And we got a bit of a fun little video for you today. We're joined by Winnie and Dolores is tucked down behind here. I can... Boop, there she is. So today's video is a recommendation video, but kind of with a little twist. It's on that trend of if you like this, try this. But I wanted to go from classics to more modern and popular books because let's face it, classics are super duper scary. Oftentimes they're kind of boring, and even though I love them and am making a career in studying them, I get it. I too don't want to read classics for fun most of the time. But I thought this would be a good way to kind of have similar themes or have kind of like similar backgrounds or characters or like things that stand out to me from these classics that translate really well into a more modern and popular story that you may or may not have read. And this works both ways because if you like the popular book, you might want to give the classic book a try because you never know. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you'll enjoy it. Maybe it'll be a little less intimidating that way. So we're going to go ahead and dive straight in. I have 5 books for us today. And since it is October and spooky season, we're going to go ahead and start with one of the masters of horror. Someone you hear all the time when it's Halloween season, and that is Edgar Allan Poe. Particularly his short stories that are kind of like spooky scary and definitely more macabre and dark. I love Edgar Allan Poe. He is amazing. I love his work. I love all the pretty additions that come with his short stories. But let's face it, Edgar Allan Poe is not that scary. He's just kind of dark. He's kind of macabre, and his depictions of horror don't necessarily translate as well today just because of all of the things we have in our horror genres that Edgar Allan Poe just doesn't cut it so much anymore. But I still love his stories, and he is beloved, and he has this like really cool way of like telling and immersing you in this really dark story. And I thought what better book and what better author could really kind of substitute that same feeling in a more modern sense, and that is Friday Black by Nanakwame Adjei-Brenyah. This is his debut collection of short stories, and when I tell you, everyone is a banger. Adjei-Brenyah just has such a way with his storytelling and the way he is depicting horror. It's amazing because it's very much black modern horror. If you like the movie like Get Out or anything that Jordan Peele is doing, you need to read Friday Black because this is an amazing debut first and foremost, but the stories are just so horrific and anger-inducing, and they linger. I have thought about this book so often since I first read it when it came out, I believe in 2018, and I've written essays about this paper. I want to write more and more essays about this paper. He's also the author of Chain Gang All-Stars, which you know is another book I adored and loved, and that was his first novel. Adjei-Brenyah is an author you want to be on the lookout for, especially if you love horror and especially if you love speculative fiction, because not only are these like modern horror, but there's also sci-fi twist in it. Sticking on the spooky thing, the next one I have for us is another classic, another spooky classic that people often read around this time of year. Sometimes you read it in high school, but it's a book I adore and is beloved, and it is from the queen herself, Mary Shelley, and that is of course Frankenstein. So if you don't know, Frankenstein is a science fiction novel that focuses on our main character Victor, who is obsessed with kind of doing these experimentations around bringing the dead back to life. And he thinks that he has the power to kind of like harness life and create a soul from dead bodies. And in doing so, he ends up creating a monster that frightens him to his very core. And so he abandons his creature, and monster does not take that very well. In fact, he swears complete revenge. This is a story that follows not only Victor's perspective as he's trying to escape the consequences of his very own actions, but also as monster hunts down his creator and makes him pay for bringing him into this world unasked. I adore Frankenstein. It's so good. It's so fun. And I just love the way that we are really tackling this question of humanity and like what does it mean to be human, and what is the responsibility of creating life and a life that kind of horrifies you. Frankenstein is such a great classic, and you gotta give it to the queen herself for inventing sci-fi, man. Mary Shelley is a beast of a woman. I love her. The fact that she wrote this just in a night with her friends as they're hanging around talking and telling stories, and she's like Queen Goth babe. Yes, she's the true Shelley to me. Like anyone who studies literature, anytime Shelley's mentioned, they think like Percy, her husband. Okay, yeah, okay, cool. But Mary though, this is one of my all-time favorite classics I've ever ever read, period. And I thought long and hard about like what would give me the same vibe, what would be kind of the same like groundbreaking ways in which Frankenstein was for its time, but also just kind of like the story itself that is told. And I actually have a graphic novel, and that is M is for Monster by Talia Dutton. M is for Monster by Talia Dutton is very much in the same vein as Frankenstein in that we are following a scientist who has played with life. So in M is for Monster, we are following a scientist, Dr. Frances, who has tragically just lost her sister in a science experiment gone wrong. She decides that she is going to try to harness life and bring her sister back from the dead. However, what she brings back is actually not her sister Mora, but something else entirely. This story is really following the perspective of M, the creature that is brought back in Mora's body, and trying to figure out who they are as a person. I love this graphic novel because one, it is very much queer and non-binary, but also it is really this like question of identity and like where do you fit in and where do you let go of someone's life who's already lost. This was a really cute story, a really well done story with really pretty art, and I think it captures the essence of Frankenstein in a more modern sense that is groundbreaking in the way as Frankenstein was for its time, because we have this very queer story that is forefronting queer themes and characters while also containing that sci-fi sense. Excellent read, quick read if you're looking for something spooky but not too spooky, and again, maybe not as dry as Frankenstein from Mary Shelley. Okay, so next I have a little bit of a recent read for me, 100% definitely fits. So if you enjoy Arabian Nights, so things like Aladdin or things like The Rose and the Dagger that are all kind of characterized from these many tales, I highly recommend The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. So this was a recent book club pick for Pages in Stardust, and when I tell you, I didn't know what to expect going into this, but I ended up really enjoying it. And we definitely have the kind of like same vibe as Arabian Nights in that we're getting a lot of miniature tales and kind of like histories slowly bled into this, as well as we're definitely following a little bit of the Aladdin story going on where we're hunting for treasures, there's genies, there's sultans, and magic that is kind of like seeping into this world into its core. The Stardust Thief was just such a well-rounded story for a intro to a new trilogy. So specifically in this book we are following a main character, Luli, who is known as the Midnight Merchant, and she deals in magical items that she commissioned to procure and then ends up selling to the rich and wealthy. However, one day while Luli is in the market selling her wares, the Sultan's guards ambush the market stall and end up capturing Luli and bringing her to the Sultan, who blackmails her into trying to find this mystical object hidden in the dunes of the sand that is said to contain a genie that has the powers to wipe off the whole kingdom. Now the thing about Luli is that she has a bodyguard who in fact is a jinn himself, and jinn are very much banned in this kingdom. So Luli not only must complete the Sultan's task, but she must do so while keeping the identity of her bodyguard a secret, otherwise she risks both their necks. And to make things more complicated, the Sultan's son is tagging along on this journey. This is a story rife with magic, with great relationships, and political intrigue. So it has the whole complete package, and again, I highly recommend it, especially since this is the start of a series, so there's going to be more and more to kind of like really sink your teeth into. Continuing on with the like magic speculative fiction, the next classic I have is one that I've taught, I love, and I'm sure a lot of you have read or at least heard about, and that is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. So if you don't know, Fahrenheit 451 is following our main character Montag, who is a firefighter, except unlike in our world, firefighters do not put out fires, they actually go out and set fire to books, because this is a world in which books have been completely banned and are in fact illegal. And Montag's whole career is to go out and find the people who are hoarding these books and to burn them to ashes so they may never get out again. But one day while Montag is on a job in a house that is filled with books, Montag gives into the temptation and actually steals one away and begins reading, and it cracks his entire worldview. Now Montag must reckon with this new knowledge that is given to him, but also keep it hidden from a government that is always watching and quick to punish those that break its laws. Very fun, very quick and easy book, very much centered on like technology and like the ways in which the government will control how people think and rewrite history to its own benefit. At its core, this book is definitely about resilience and kind of resisting the government and government control over the individual and individual thought. And what better book and what better sci-fi book to pair with this than Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I love Red Rising. I've talked at length about how much I adore and just devoured this series, okay? And I'm here to do it again because it's perfect to pair with Fahrenheit. So Red Rising follows our main character Darrow, who is a Red, which is the lowest rank in a color-coded caste system of the future. And in this society, Reds live below the surface of Mars, mining and cultivating the land in order to make it habitable for other people to come. And Darrow is one of these miners. He lives a rather dangerous life with not a very long expectancy, but he is happy in his lot in life. He is working towards something that he truly believes in. He is married to the love of his life, and he is content in what he does. However, one day Darrow finds out that everything he has been told is a lie, that the surface of Mars has been colonized and livable for generations, and the Reds have been relegated to a slave labor system that will never see the light of day. And once this comes to life, Darrow becomes a key figure in the rebellion, infiltrating the Golds, the highest color in the caste system, and devotes his life to bringing the whole system down. This is a book that definitely is all about going against the government. But what I really love about Red Rising is that this book is really deceptive for what the rest of the series is, because this book very much has like a Hunger Games vibe, because we're in this like competition where people are killing each other. But as the series progresses, it really asks the question of, what does a rebellion mean? And what does it mean to rebel? And where is the line between doing something for the good of the world and doing something for the good of yourself? Where is that line? Who can you trust? And what happens to society after you've removed this corrupt power structure? This is a series that tackles each and every one of those questions, and by God, does it do it well. This is a book and this is a series that will suck you in and just really make you question not only who you like in this book, but also what does it really mean to be a part of rebellion. All right, and for my final recommendation is for a book that you've probably read in high school, if I'm honest with you. And it's a book that I think is really, really important because it deals with themes of racism and prejudice, which is very prevalent in our society today, unfortunately. And for that, I have To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is the Eaton's Press edition. I don't have a regular edition of this book because I just don't. I have this pretty copy because I love this story. If you don't know, To Kill a Mockingbird follows our main character, Scout, whose father is Atticus Finch, a lawyer. At the beginning of this novel, we have Tom Robinson, a black, who has been accused of raping a white woman, and no one will defend him until Atticus steps up and undertakes the case. This story is told through the perspective of Scout, as she is not only witnessing what her father is going through in this trial and as he's preparing for this case, defending a man everyone immediately assumes is guilty and is fighting an uphill battle to prove his innocence, but also kind of dealing with the roots and consequences of racism in a small rural town in 1930s America. This is a story I think is really well done for its time, in that we are getting this kind of really innocent perspective of like, what is it like to experience racism and to see it unfold through the lens of a child who doesn't contain these same inbred prejudices that the society clearly has. It was really well done. I enjoy it. It's a really careful balance between the seriousness that comes with racism, but also the levity of like family and like childhood, and again growing up in a time and seeing this injustice. Beloved classic. I think it still really holds up today, but an issue with this is that it is definitely told from a white perspective about very black issues, and that comes with its own inherent prejudices and privileges. What better way to kind of contain some of the same messages and to contain the same real kind of realities of racism in society than pairing this through the lens of a black character and a black author? And for that, I have The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. The Hate You Give is essentially a modern day To Kill a Mockingbird, in that we are following our main character Star, who lives a double life. She goes to a really rich private school, but she lives in a poorer black neighborhood that is rife with gang territory wars and issues. And Star is kind of unsure of where she belongs in either side. But one day she is out at a party and she ends up running to her old childhood friend Khalil. And just as they're about to really kind of get to know each other again, guns go off at the party and they end up leaving. But on their way home, they are stopped by a police officer who unfortunately shoots and kills Khalil in front of Star. And so The Hate You Give follows her journey, not only as she's dealing with what she witnessed that night, but also in the midst of a protest going on surrounding Khalil's death, and how society treats Khalil versus how they treat the officer who killed him. This is a book that will make you mad because of just how true it is to real life that we've seen seeing the same story over and over and over again. But what I think that The Hate U Give does really well is that it really cements it in the teenage experience as well as cementing it in the modern day times. Whereas To Kill a Mockingbird definitely focuses on more childlike, The Hate U Give ages it up to a story where you are very much aware of what is going on and very much aware of the different types of racism that you will encounter and how society is going to continuously view you. This is a book that double consciousness is a key thing. Not only as Star is trying to figure out who she is, but also trying to figure out what is her responsibility and role that she has to play in bringing justice to Khalil's death. This is a heartbreaking book, but it's an important book and a book I think everyone should read. All right, but that is all the recommendations I have for you today. I hope you found something interesting to try, maybe even a classic you were a little afraid of to read. Now you know it's really similar to a popular book. Maybe it won't be so scary. But that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one. Bye!